We have a
Björn is
guest.
here.
Hey,
Hello.
Dudes,
Beautiful
dude.
man is here.
what's
Yes.
up?
Well, how are you, man?
Good. Yeah, just early morning here. It's cold as shit in Boulder, so just living in the
Oh,
office.
oh, how cold is cold?
In
Mine
Celsius.
this morning was -10 Fahrenheit, so you might have to do some calculations for your European.
Oh shit, I know what is that? I don't know what that is. That's
I know
Let's see.
sounds cold though.
minus 40 is minus 40. That's all I know.
Oh, so but it's not -40.
No.
It was -23 Celsius.
Oh shit, that's cold.
That's cold.
Yeah, it
Whoa.
was cold. Yeah, it was like
In
actually cold, you know?
in Boulder, in city Boulder.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Indoor.
And not indoors.
Is that
How-
normal though?
Well, yeah, it's normal, I think. I mean, for winter, you get like a couple cold passes that come through. It kind of sucks in Boulder between, I don't know, February to March is kind of rough. Otherwise, awesome. Still paradise.
Oh shit, only 2 months of shit. I mean, Stockholm is, I don't know, 6 months of shit. Or 9, I don't know. But it's not really cold. This is miserable, wet, sleet, snow, ice. Ah, shit. Probably pretty much like Zurich, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, this is why Boulder is like, a climber's mecca. It's like the haven, It's so nice here.
Mm. But can you climb outdoors though a lot like much of the year or yeah?
Yeah, you can climb year round here. I mean, there's sport climbers kind of grumble about like, there not being a proper sport flag that's really good in the winter, but there's little spots here and there on the Flatirons that are good for sport, and then tons of bouldering. Like it's kind of seasonal. Like, you got to hit some spots when the snow is right. You got to hit other places when it's cold. It just has to be the right time, but there's always something to go climb on. So it's pretty
Right,
sweet.
right. So do you climb year round or?
I have twin girls, so I don't climb year round outside anymore. I used to a lot. I mean, every now and then I get out and try something that looks cool,
Mhm.
or I see on Instagram and, I'm like, oh yeah, that thing. But the days outside are limited these days. So
Yeah, it takes a lot of time, huh?
that's the whole game when you have kids is
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, I saw you did some stuff in the desert though, like recently, didn't you?
yeah. I get, once a year, twice a year, I try and plan like a little climbing trip. I spend most of my time like climbing in the gym and training so that if I do go outside, I can try and do something cool. But yeah, every year we go to Vegas and climb in Red Rock. So that's awesome.
Mm.
And I've been climbing there for, 20 years. So I have a bunch of projects and, I found some new stuff and, just kind of always evolving my relationship with that place and climbing on new stuff there.
Cool, cool.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll get to that later on when we talk
Let's,
about climbing.
yeah.
But I guess we should
You should
start.
You should start, Björn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First of all, like we need to address the elephant in the room. And that's not me. I'm big and fat, but it's not me. No, but I mean, you're a tall guy, you're handsome, fit, badass climber, successful at what you do. So do you get a lot of hate?
I only get hate when I interact with the internet, which is kind of my job, I guess. I don't know. I make films, I climb, and a lot of that stuff ends up on the internet, and a lot of people have a lot of opinions. But I don't know. I've been dealing with that since social media started, and since posting videos on the web was possible when that was kind of invented in the early 2000s. So I've been dealing with the haters my whole life, and I don't know, it's just part of the game. I don't mind the trolls. I think it's fine. I mean, they're just part of the deal.
Oh, really? I'm kind of surprised. I was not expecting that answer actually. I thought, but really, people give you hate about
Oh,
what? What kind of things?
oh man, I mean everything you can think about. Like your movies suck. Your climbing. You're only good because you're tall. You
That's
climb the
true.
grass. Yeah, that is true actually.
You're not even true. You're not even tall. Come on.
Yeah, 6'3", so I'm definitely above average and definitely fatter than most climbers. at like 195 pounds. I mean, I climbed V15 when I weighed 195 pounds, so
Wow.
that's pretty fat. But also, like, you know, anytime you post accomplishments or, you know, talk about your climbing, there's people that love to have opinions about it. And usually those climbers haven't been in the game that long and don't really understand how it works, but that's part of it too, you know?
Right. But I mean, the percentage of hate you get must be like rather small though, compared to the
Yeah.
other stuff, like the good stuff.
Yeah. I think people like, I think these days, you know, climbers want to, you know, see what's going on in the climbing world, and we tell stories about climbers. So, I mean, that's hopefully we're giving people what they want, and a lot of people validate what we do by watching the movies that we make and looking at the photos that we take and saying, wow, those are sick, or I love that story, or that person's so cool, or whatever, you know. I think
Yeah.
that's all part of the game.
Right. So we should also say that, I mean, for people who don't know you or you know about you, you're 40 now, right?
Recently 40, yes.
Recently 40, like 190, 163, big guy, strong guy, V15 you mentioned, the Nest, right?
Yep.
And you are a filmmaker since a lot of years. You founder of Louder than 11, right?
Yep.
So, but that's just sort of facts. Give us your elevator pitch. Like, how does it sound if you're presenting yourself? Get like 1 minute.
Well, I think I'm maybe your standard tortured climber that wants to, you know, only climb all day, every day. And those are still my objectives in the back of my mind. But the reality is, you know, I have a family and I have a business, and I love the way that all of that interacts in my life. I think it's really cool to have this climbing background, but to be able to talk about climbing and present climbing to, you know, other climbers and outdoor enthusiasts who want to learn about these people and these stories and these accomplishments. Um, I don't know. The other day I was walking around Red Rock and I saw, like, you know, probably 1,000 people out bouldering in the craft area at Red Rock, and I just like felt, I don't know, I felt kind of proud that, like, I've seen climbing come this far, you know, from back in the day when we were kind of the, you know, the riffraff climbing on boulders and no one knew what we were doing and didn't understand it at all. And now, like, climbing is a mainstream term. People understand what's going on. It's in the Olympics. It's a competition format. I mean, it's just like the 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 explosion of climbing feels like, I don't know. I had a small piece of that, to, you know, credit myself, I guess. I don't know. That feels weird, but it feels fun to be a part of that process and to see it come so far. And I don't know. I just, my whole life is all about climbing. All my friends are climbers. I live and breathe climbing just like everybody else that is obsessed with it. But, you know, also telling stories in that space is super exciting and fun for me.
Nice.
Yeah.
How did you start actually with the climbing?
I went to a summer camp. My parents put me in a climbing summer camp when we moved from the country in Charlotte, outside of Charlottesville, Virginia. We moved to the big city of Charlottesville, and my parents didn't know what to do with me because I was, you know, probably driving them crazy. And they put me in a summer camp at a climbing gym called Rocky Top in Charlottesville, and I mean, that was it. I knew right then that was what I was going to be doing for the rest of my life. It was like, absolutely hooked me, and there was no turning back. I was in there every day climbing. I would bike there, and, you know, I would walk there if my bike was broken. I found any way to get to the climbing gym and climb as much as possible. And I think back then it was different though, because, like, you know, bouldering wasn't really a thing then. You know, Fred was like doing some stuff. John Gill had done some things, but people had really like attached themselves to the idea of bouldering as being cool. You know, everybody was bouldering for, you know, sport climbing skill, and they wanted to improve their endurance or be better at hard movements so they could do that on real climbs like sport climbs, or trad routes. So we were, you know, we would boulder a lot, and we were like really obsessed with bouldering in the 90s. And we were like, what is this? We don't know if this is cool or not, but we can't stop doing it because it's awesome. And we would take pictures of it, and, you know, we would share those things with friends, and like it kind of hooked people. And we were like, okay, this might be a thing. then we realized other people were kind of doing it. So I don't know. Bouldering was kind of like something we did in the background, but I was a sport climber for 15 years. And then bouldering kind of like sunk in the early 2000s.
Right, but so were you part of a team from the beginning, or
No,
just a bunch of guys? Okay.
yeah, just a bunch of friends. I mean, I was like a young teenager, and all of my friends were like in college or in med school or whatever. Like they're all older people, and I don't know. My parents must have thought I was crazy, but they definitely supported me when I would go every weekend to go climbing at the New River Gorge with my 20 something friends who were like drinking and partying and like doing adult stuff, and I was just like this little teenager that just wanted to climb 513. So yeah, it was different back then. I mean, it was definitely like uh I would do anything to go climbing phase. And that just I don't know, I've always kind of felt that in the back of my mind.
So your friends didn't let you drink?
I mean, I think I probably got drunk like once and was like, oh, this kind of sucks. Like I can't climb hard. I, I definitely remember being in Squamish when I was like a young teenager and like getting really drunk on Mike's Hard Lemonade, and I was like, this sucks. Like this is disgusting. Yeah. So that I don't know. That wasn't really my thing. I just wanted to be a climber.
Right, right. But you also got into competitions in your teens, right?
Yeah, I did a lot of local comps. I did some of the JCCA stuff before USA Climbing was like a really structured entity. And then in college, I started like the first collegiate climbing team. So like we like had a college team. There was like, I don't know, 50, 75 of us on the team that were all like really psyched on climbing at Appalachian State in Boone in North Carolina. And kind of kicked off the collegiate climbing scene in America. That wasn't really happening in the early 2000s. Like that started really with our team and like what we were psyched on, and we would just like try to organize events. We would invite other people from other schools to come compete with us and stuff, so that was really fun. But I did a lot of competitions like until late 90s, early 2000s. I don't know, probably my only real claim to fame is beating Chris Sharma in a competition, but he was asleep for most of finals, and like he got pulled out of the isolation area while he was like barely awake. So I don't know. It wasn't really a fair win, but I'll still count it.
When was this exactly?
That was probably 2005 or six. There used to be a trade show every year, and that had a competition attached to it. That the like Nor'easter guys used to throw. The NE2C guys used to have a competition series, and there was like a trade show competition, and you might remember it. It was like the crazy wall that had that giant eyeball in it. Do you remember this eyeball wall? It was actually it was a massive bouldering wall, and it had this huge eye in it, and it was like a
I
giant.
think I know which one now.
Yeah, I think it ended up getting installed in like some So-Il gym in the Midwest somewhere. But yeah, it was a cool event, and it was on top of this parking deck, and it was like overlooking the city, and it was just a really cool event. All the industry folks would come, and it was like a big. It was one of the biggest comps of the year besides nationals. But back then, like it was basically just nationals. There wasn't even a national cup series leading up to it. It was like one event. The thing back then, which was crazy, was like I was also shooting and producing a lot of the USA climbing events, and working with the NE2C guys on Nor'easter or any of the other big competition series they were doing. So I would like compete in qualies or semifinals. I would sometimes make it even into a final. And then like when I finished climbing, I would like grab a camera and I would like shoot. It was really like it was loose back then. I mean, I remember like in I made a final at this competition, this crazy competition in New York City that was held in Central Park, and I like finished competing in the final. I was I think I placed sixth going out of the six guys. So like I went first in all the rounds. So I would like finish my round, and then I would shoot the other people in that round, and then I would like get back on and I would climb in the next on the next boulder. And I did that at like a Nor'easter too. I think I didn't make a final, but I made all the other rounds, but I was still shooting like some of that too. So that was really fun. it was just like it was wild back then, man. It was loose.
Yes, it sounds perfect. Like,
I loved it. I just wanted to be in the mix. You know, I'm just obsessed with climbing, and I just wanted to be like, I wanted to be a part of the scene so bad.
Did you like compete or?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it was awesome. I mean, it was just like it was validating also because you don't really know how strong you are compared to the other guys. I mean, in the late 90s, early 2000s, you knew every single climber. You knew every boulder they had done, every sport route that they had climbed, every competition they had won. You knew everybody at every event. Now, like I see a climbing event, I know like two or three people that are like the old school dudes, and like everyone else is new. And there's like, 20 dudes that are kind of interchangeable, give or take a few, that are always in the mix. So yeah, back in the day, it was like it was such a fun way to just like connect with our friends. We would also go on climbing trips together. Like we'd be out on the boulders, and then the next week we'd be in the gym, competing. So back in the day, also there was a pretty healthy like I don't even know what you'd call it, like kind of like a backyard circuit. Like there was every gym basically had a competition, and you could go there and you could probably place top three in your regional event, and you could win some cash or some gear. Like if you got a new climbing rope because you won first place, you were psyched. You could go climb with your new rope. That's $200 right there. So those were good days.
so at that time, did you feel that you had to choose at all between competitions and outdoor, or was it just
No,
you
it
just did
wasn't.
everything?
It wasn't that sophisticated. I don't think we were
Mm.
climbing every day, and like there was no like rhyme or reason to it. We weren't like training or anything specific either. Like our training was climbing in the gym or like going outside. Like I had a circuit in Boone in North Carolina where I would just go outside. I would go to this place called Lost Cove, and I would just do every boulder at Lost Cove, which was like, I don't know, 15 boulders from V7 to V11 or V12. And I would just go and circuit all the boulders outside as my training. I would train for like the Triple Crown, that event series that happens at Stone Fort, Horsepens 40, and Hound Ears. There was like a three competition series that would happen every year outside called the Triple Crown. And I would just train for that like crazy. And I would do well. I would win those events year on year. And that was really fun because we could like train outside and then climb outside and like refine your boulder list and all that stuff. So that was cool. But like we didn't train. Like I didn't start training until probably I was in my late 20s. And the whole time from my late 20s on, when I was learning how to train and developing my plan and like getting better at like uh, the actual training itself, I was just so mad at myself for not, when I was 15, 17, 20, like, why was I not training? I would have been so good. Like I could have been really good. But instead I was just kind of like, all right. So I don't know. I always kick myself for not having been a better focused trainer back in the day because that would have really helped.
I think a lot of people like feel the same way about that, right? But do you feel that you have peaked or not in terms of as a climber?
Well, I definitely peaked when I climbed the nest because I had the time to peak. Like I, because of COVID, because like the whole world shut down for a year basically, and the perfect timing of that, which is I know it's a pandemic. It sucked. It was horrible for everybody in many ways, but it also provided interesting opportunities. Um, and for me, like I had spent 10 years training and developing my personal training plan just for what I knew would help me perform my best. Happened, COVID happened right at the right time for me to be able to implement a decade of training knowledge to put towards a hard climbing objective. So like, yeah, it was the right place, right time. I mean, I was 37 at the time. I mean, that's not that's not young for like peak performance in climbing. Like, the people that are competing these days are, 20. So like we know that peak performance in competition kind of happens around a certain age, but with like outdoor performance, like I think you can keep pushing yourself well into your 40s. and still perform at a high level. I mean, for me, my peak was definitely climbing the nest. I just was able to implement everything all at once into one objective and really see it through.
Right. And when you did that, did it feel limit?
No, definitely not. Especially because I was able to identify my own like skill set and what I could do well at. Like for some reason, I'm really, really good at power endurance. Like I can climb, a V11 or a V12 into a V13 or a V14 and refine it down and do it. Or I can add a V8 into a V11, into a V12, into a V13. I can keep like building on that. I think like my limitation is in like small crimps and hard movement on small crimps that are just like they're just hard for me. They're hard for a 195-pound dude to do. And I think like, a lot of the best climbers in the world are putting up the hardest climbs. That's just how it goes. And those guys are usually a certain size and they usually have a certain skill set and they're able to develop and establish, hard climbs in that style. And that usually doesn't fit my style perfectly. So it's rare to find a climb that kind of like fits uh the formula for me to be able to reach my peak potential in performance. So like the nest was an interesting one in that way because like I was able to figure out the moves. I knew I could do all the moves. It was just a matter of building the endurance and the power endurance to execute something really hard like that. And if I could find something similar that's a grade harder or whatever, if I can keep adding and building on that structure, I think I could climb harder. I would just need the time to train and dedicate to that type of objective.
Right. So it's interesting because, like, say if you could find or even put up a problem that suits your style perfectly, how do you think the like other climbers, smaller climbers, basically would fare on that?
Who cares?
I mean, no, I mean, yeah, but it's interesting, like, because you sort of have to usually adapt to well someone else's problem, sort of, especially indoors, I guess. But
Yeah.
uh, but it's seldom that it's the other way around.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely gravitate towards hanging out with dudes that are tall that like climbing in the same style that I do. Like I climb here in Boulder all the time with a very, very tall fella. And we definitely like it would be a dream for both of us to find a boulder that only we can reach, or, only a few guys on Earth can reach. That would be, very specific to our style. I'm looking for that refrigerator that is, 6 feet wide, 6 inches, that only I can grab and that no one else can. That's the dream. Because that's what's so cool about bouldering and what we do is it is really specific to the person. It's specific to the style. Like, I always prided myself on trying to climb every V12 or whatever, like every grade. I wanted to be like an expert at like that level and be able to say I could go up to any V10 and climb any V10 in the world,
Right.
whatever. So like, having that spectrum is really interesting. And like at the highest level, like it's so interesting to see people like really refining their skills. I think like climbs like Alphane compared to like Burden of Dreams, like it's crazy that they're the same grade. It's crazy that they're in the same category. Like it's not even the same type of climbing. Like it's so different that those it's just crazy that they're compared.
Hmm.
And I would love to find stuff that's really specific to tall guys. I've developed some things here and there, in the V10 to V13 range that like probably only someone my size or bigger could do, or at least would only feel like V13 to them.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's a fun, weird skill set that you have when you're a tall guy like that.
Yeah, and also a very tall guy that is, I mean, who climbs on that level. Because I mean, there are a lot of tall guys. I'm a tall guy, but it doesn't matter because I can climb the shit anyway, right? It's, I mean, it's easy for a guy who's only 195 pounds, but if you're like 220, it's different, you know?
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, there's there's not a lot of people that are tall and on the heavier side in climbing that are high performers. Like Kai Leitner is a great example. Like, definitely has the height and the weight to match me. I mean, he's climbed 15A. I think like sport climbers, high performance sport climbing, when you're a big, tall dude, is very hard. That's where it like really separates. So what Kai did recently is super impressive. I measured up with Jan Hoyer one day, and he and I have the exact same arm span. And so whenever I go somewhere, I always look up Jan's videos because I know arm span is, and I know that like I could watch his videos and I can be like, oh yeah, he can do this way. Like that's the beta that I could use. Like I like to have some comparables for people that are, have a similar span, but it's hard to find people with a similar height and weight. Because Jan's small. I mean, he's not that tall and he's obviously super lean and very strong, but like not comparable in height. That's a big differentiator.
Yeah, I think it's 187. Jan is, yeah.
Yeah. Which is abnormal. I also it's funny, I also just measured with I was shooting with Allison Vest, and we have almost the same arm span. But she has like short arms, not short arms, but normal arms, but really wide shoulders. And so like if we measure this way, we're, horizontally, we're basically the same. But if we measure this way from shoulder to arm vertically, I have like a foot on her. So
That's crazy.
yeah, it's really crazy. So like, she can do some crazy compression boulders that are really wide, and she can do that type of movement really well because she has that span, which is really unique. So I don't know. I always thought that's really cool with climbers, is finding those similarities and like being able to look at what they do online and see their videos and be like, oh yeah, like she can span this, or like he can do that move like that way. Like I can totally do that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Definitely.
How much time did you invest in the nest?
I was there. Well, I mean, time in terms of like training, 10 years of developing a plan that would allow me to do that. But then I did like a 9-week program that I had developed like leading up to being at the nest for maybe 40 days. And then, while you're there, you're also like playing conditions games, you're playing skin games, you're resting. So I think I did maybe 15 days or so across that month and a half or whatever it was that I was in Las Vegas.
So do you think you will have a time in the future to spend same amount of the time on some other projects, or?
I hope so. I mean, it's so different now with kids. Like it's like it's the whole game is all about time and how you invest your time, and also, like I run a business, I have a wife. I mean, we like to go climbing together, but like, projecting is not super fun for the family. It's like it's kind of a bummer sometimes. Like you have to be in it, and if you want to climb your hardest or really push yourself, like you really have to be in it. So yeah, I would need time to train and time to be at a climbing area, or at least chip away at a hard climb over many years, and develop a skill set around it. I mean, there's tons of things in the back of my mind that I would love to project. I would love to work on Dreamtime Sit. I think that's a really obvious one, because it is like it's similar to the Nest in that it's combining 2 hard climbs and it's a power endurance challenge. And I'd like to be in Switzerland more. So, I mean, that sounds like a really nice thing to do. I'd like to hang out with Vlad and Swiss. But also, like, I'd like to spend time in France as well. I mean, there's tons of things that, like, for me, it's more about like the people that I can hang out with, the location being awesome and engaging and fun to be in, and just like the culture being rewarding for wherever the projects are. Like that's what's so great about Vegas, is like it's such an awesome place to be every year, and that's why the Nest was so fun. It's like projecting in Vegas is just like you're surrounded by a ton of other climbers that are all there for like climbing their hardest climbs and pushing themselves seasonally. It's just like a dream location. The weather is so good. Like on my rest days, I was like going to Black Velvet and like supporting a friend. And like while I was in Black Velvet one day, like I saw Daniel Woods climb, the first ascent of, Return of the Sleepwalker. Like so much cool stuff is happening. Like every time you're out, like in the boulders, like so much history is being made all the time in Red Rocket. It's just like, it's a cool vibe. And I want to replicate that vibe, that experience, the culture, the friends, like all that stuff needs to kind of happen in like the location for it to all feel right and be right.
I guess you have a few like sort of window now when the kids are small until start school and all that, which when it's possible actually to travel whenever.
Well, yeah, I mean, we travel. My wife and I travel for work all the time. The kids have already been to like 6 or 7 different countries,
Right.
and we've been all over the place. It is definitely not easy, and it takes a lot more time to deal with the kids when you get somewhere, and like you just don't have the same amount of time outside. Like if you're projecting something, you just need so much time to be
Yeah.
out there to just and to be flexible. Like you need to be able to like roll with it one day when the weather's good, or if the weather's bad, you do something else. Like that's so hard to do with children, and finding that balance, and traveling and jet lag and not sleeping and just like all the crazy stuff that comes with that it's a lot. So there's a lot more variables that kind of play into, the success or failure of a climbing trip.
Yeah, definitely. And also, I mean, you need to be there in the right headspace and have time for it, which is difficult when you have like now you got 2 hours or whatever. Like it's. But
Yeah.
you mentioned a couple of times that you've developed your own sort of training regime. I mean, I'm not going to ask about every little detail, of course. Well, I would love to, but what's like what do you think like what do you do differently to others then?
I don't think I do anything totally different in my training plan. I guess, it's so specific to every individual, and like how much rest you need, how many days you can do on, how many days you need off, like how intense you can be with your training is also really dependent on how long you've been doing it and what your capacity is. Like at first, you're kind of just experimenting. When you develop a plan early on in your training life, um, you need to experiment and see what your body can handle injury wise, what your rest and recovery looks like, what you can handle. I mean, you will build up to a really high level eventually, but it takes a long time to figure out what that looks like. I mean, for me, like when I was peak in my training, usually I would train like Tuesday, Thursday. I would do double days. In the morning, I would do some sort of hangboard routine, one arm hang protocols, or I would do a full canvassing session. And then I would rest all day. And then the afternoon, evening, I would do a 3 hour board session. And that was kind of like my Tuesday, Thursday. And then the weekends I would project, or if it was not good outside for projecting, I would go inside and I would do a couple days in the gym, either doing a training protocol or just climbing on boulders in the gym. So like my capacity was pretty high. Like I could do double days of like a proper training, hour and a half training in the morning, and then a 3 hour training in the evening. Like I didn't have kids. I was, work was not a super intense during that COVID year. And so it was just a different, experience. And I was able to really push myself, like, at my capacity. I mean, I was eating a ton. I was trying to recover a ton. I was sleeping a ton. It was a magical time.
So basically, no life, just training.
Yeah, I mean,
That
like,
is life, though. I know. I know.
yeah. I mean, that is your life. Like, you do
Yeah.
structure everything around your training, right? Like, everything
Right.
becomes like, okay, I need 5 hours to be in the gym today. Like, how am I going to carve that out of my life? And like, you're probably not drinking as much. You're probably not partying at all. You're probably not seeing friends as much. Like, you just make a little sacrifice here and there because you see the goal, you know what the objective is, and you work towards it.
Mm.
Nice.
Nice.
When is the filmmaking comes in your life? How this happened?
How did it happen?
Yeah, how did it happen? Yeah?
In 2000, well, going way back, like, in high school, I was like really into photography. I would do like, we had a dark room and a lab in my like public high school that I would use all the time. I took all those classes. So I was really into like shooting film. So that was really fun. Um, but then in early 2000s, I got a DSLR camera, like when the first ones came out. I had like whatever it was, a Canon 60D or something like that. And I would just, like take my camera and I would go and shoot my friends climbing, mostly photos, but then eventually that became video when video was like possible on the little DSLRs. And so, and like I think kind of at the same time, it was kind of a perfect storm. At the same time that the DSLR kind of revolution happened where they could shoot video and Vimeo came out and there was like MySpace and YouTube wasn't even around yet, or social media. It was really just like Vimeo and videos online. Suddenly you had like a tool that you could go and shoot video on, and you had a platform where you could go and just like put all your stuff. We had no idea what we were doing. I was just like shooting videos and throwing them up on the internet. And back then, nobody else was really doing that. Momentum Video Magazine, MVM, was kind of doing like something kind of similar. Like Mike Call was doing that. But like it was all kind of like a paywall situation. Like you kind of had to pay. And then with like Big Up and Sender, like they were making climbing films, but like they were making like DVDs, and they were doing like a film tour and stuff, like kind of in its early phases. It was all pay to play kind of situation where like I just wanted to like put my videos online for beta. I wanted to like show people like the climbs, the new climbs we were doing, repeats of hard climbs, whatever it was. So like we were just kind of spraying the internet with whatever. And back then, like our motto was kind of like free, whether you like it or not, because high quality. We were just putting it on the internet, and we were like, screw you. If you don't want to watch it, don't watch it. Like if you want beta for a hard climb, like here it is. So that kind of moment was revolutionary for me. I kind of saw like the free platform, the free distribution on the internet, the easy tool to use to make the content. And then, it was every day. I was probably making hundreds of videos a year, of bouldering videos, beta videos, like following my friends around who were also pro climbers and documenting, whatever we were doing. And it really kicked off in 2008, when we like created Louder Than 11. And, me and some friends really just wanted to make videos. That was it. And like make videos about bouldering that felt like more approachable and more realistic than just like Chris Sharma on the hardest climb in the world, or uh, whoever doing this remarkable thing. Like those stories need to be told. That's great. But like we were also like pro climbers doing a totally different thing, that felt more like counterculture-y and a little bit less like mainstream. And it was just a really great way to build a community and talk to people about what we were doing and share what we thought was sick.
But were you at the time when you were spraying the internet with video? Were you sort of consciously or subconsciously playing the long game at the same time, like understanding that in the future this will lead to something? Making
Yeah, definitely. When we were putting videos on, Louder Than 11's channel, like Louder Than 11 kind of at the beginning was kind of like a media platform, almost similar to like what Mello is now, where it's kind of like a channel where you come and you see videos. Like we had bloggers, we had people that like would blog on Louder Than 11's channel on our website. We had video contributions. We would like launch videos for brands. We were also like, we were doing all of USA Climbing's media at that time. From 2008 to 2019, we were like the content provider for USA Climbing. So live broadcasts for competitions, event recap videos. We were shooting photos for all the events. We were doing like all the social media marketing for them. Like basically anything USA Climbing media-wise was us for a decade. And so that also lived on the Louder Than 11 platform. Like it was searchable, it was easy to interact with. It went through tons of different iterations, but ultimately it was like a platform for, climbers to write about climbing, for video projects to be presented, whether it was ours or affiliated people's videos. And it was just a way for us to like show that we were out there doing this thing, you know. And we also wanted to like really cover comp climbing in a meaningful way, because you know comp climbing coverage was really just highlight reels for about a decade. And then when live streaming was possible, when YouTube happened and live streaming really went big on YouTube and it was free basically, it was a really revolutionary moment. And like for about, I don't know, 6 to 8 years, we were broadcasting every big USA climbing event too. And that was also hosted on our website and platform. So like it was all kind of integrated, right? Like it was all part of this bigger objective, which was to build the brand of Louder Than 11, but also to provide people with a deeper understanding of comp climbing and outdoor climbing.
What would you say was your? I mean, you said that already. That from the beginning, your why was to provide, basically showing what's happening. How has that changed until like what is it now? What's your why now?
Now, for me, it's more about like people, and telling amazing stories about people. Like, I mean, we have a feature documentary on Emily Harrington coming out soon, about her life as a climber, and her high performance goals of climbing El Cap in a day. So like feature docs are really interesting to me because it allows you to tell a really deep, meaningful human story about someone. Um, and you know, we're working on a feature doc right now with Ethan Pringle, and a lot of these people are like friends of mine, close friends of mine that are amazing climbers, but also have like real stories that are happening in the background, that aren't just climbing stories, and that I think connecting human stories that are real and relatable to high performance climbing objectives allows like non-climbers to understand climbing more. And I do think that, you know, when you make a feature documentary like Free Solo or The Dawn Wall or Meru, you reach a broader audience and you can really get people to understand what's going on and why climbing's so awesome, but also the incredible people behind climbing. So to me, like that's a great outlet. Like it's kind of an evolution of, you know, what I've gone through as a climber. Like high performance is always been at the core, but I do think that, you know, telling deeper, meaningful human stories is the most rewarding thing at this phase in my life.
Right, right. And how do these projects come about? Like, if you're doing for example, with Emily or Ethan, how does it start? Is it your idea? Is it their idea? So,
Well, I could give you an example of Emily and Ethan. So
mm,
they're all different. I mean, ultimately, like the deeper reason and how it kind of comes about is just like big time hustle, all the time hustle, and just believing in a story and fighting for it to be uh, something. But also like having support from brands and having support from the characters that are you know, the focus of your filmmaking is really important. Having the trust in them is really important. For example, with Emily, like I started shooting with Emily in 2014 or 2015, and you know, we did a documentary project on Golden Gate over 6 days on El Cap, where she free climbed Golden Gate, and it was a, you know, a project for North Face. They, you know, licensed the final video. It went up on their YouTube. It got millions of plays. People really liked it, and you know, I built some trust with Emily as a person and a friend, but also as a filmmaker, that you know, she would trust me to work with her. And you know, when it came over the years, we worked more and more together, but ultimately when it comes to making a feature, like you're going to be working with that person for a long time, and you're going to be you know, around them a lot. You have to spend time with them. You are also authenticating what they're doing visually for an audience that might not understand it. So you play a big role in their career as an athlete. And if you make a successful feature doc on an athlete, like their career is set. You know what I mean? Like they're good. So you really need to form that partnership. So like Emily and I, like we had talked about doing another project together. It evolved into this El Cap in a Day Golden Gate thing. And eventually when she did do it and we documented the whole thing, we realized we had a much bigger story than just like, a YouTube thing for a brand. And so like we went out and we sought financing to help support the finishing on the project, even though it was shot, we still needed to pay for it. So the finishing was done with a partnership with Red Bull Studios. And, through that partnership, we were able to create the feature doc, and now we're going to go out and try and sell it. So, I mean, that's like one scenario. Like with Ethan, for example, like back in 2018, I had a conversation when I was an athlete with Mountain Hardware about making an athlete profile on Ethan. And the story is about Ethan and his dad. His dad had a stroke in 2013, and it's about Ethan caretaking for his father while also reaching his, peak in his climbing career, climbing Jumbo Love, the Nest, biography. I mean, he just did like so many amazing things during that time, and it's a story about his life. And part of that project is an archive editing project, and part of it is a modern day story about where he is now with his dad and what he learned from that experience. So that was just, like an idea that was kind of floated around Mountain Hardware for a while. They kind of greenlit the project with some funding early on. And then that just allowed us to go crazy, like allowed us to go and shoot with him a lot. It allowed us to be there when moments happened. And I guess like, a little bit of money here and there goes a really long way when you're trying to tell a story. Like ultimately, I just want to tell the best possible story about someone and make a movie that people think is interesting and entertaining, but also rad. And it needs a high performance element, but also like it's about the people and the stories and what's actually happening. So I don't know. I think it's like you just don't really know how projects are gonna unfold. Like I've been hanging out with Yanya for the past year, basically shooting with her, and I know that will eventually become a project. I kind of see where it's going, and we kind of have the partnerships formulating, but like it's a big project. I have a great relationship with Yanya, and I think that like there's something to be done there. And it will become something. I just don't really know. I'm kind of always investing in these people and these ideas so that they can, become something at some point. Because I know you can just see it. Like everyone wants to know what's going on with Anya. That's a story, 100%, right? Like she's going to go to the Olympics in 2028. And she's going to win a third gold medal. Everyone wants to know that story. Like that's so cool. Like it's as cool as it gets in sports for any individual sport, right?
Will that be speed?
Yeah, hopefully she wins speed. That'd be cool. If Yanya wants to win a speed climbing event, she will do everything she can to win a speed event. I have no doubt that she could be the best speed climber in the world. If she wants to be a Formula One race car driver, she'll do that next week, and she'll be the best race car that ever lived. She's crazy, man. Like that girl can do anything she wants to do.
Yeah, just want to circle back to because when you talked about Emily, because the story with Emily Harrington was about her climbing the nose in a day, right?
Golden Gate, yeah.
Sorry,
Golden Gate.
Golden Gate. Sorry. How much does a story like that ride, or a project like that ride on her succeeding?
Well, we didn't really know what was going to happen when we were documenting it. She, in 2019, in the fall, she fell. She took like a 50-foot whipper in the middle of the night with Alex belaying her, and she ended up in the hospital. We thought she broke her neck. I thought she died. And so it was kind of like, oh shit, like this project's over. You know what I mean? Like we're done here. I think this is it. And then, we were kind of like, what, we don't know what to do. Like, we don't know what to do with this project. Like, it doesn't rely on sending. Like, that is not the be all end all. But like, that got really real. Like, I thought my close friend had just died and I had filmed it. And, when it turned out that she was relatively okay and she recovered, and then COVID happened right after that, we were kind of like, this film's dead. You know what I mean? Like, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what she's going to do. Will she be motivated to still do this climb? She wanted to have a baby. So, like, we had no idea what was going to happen with her. And then, we kept talking and she was like, actually, I kind of want to go for it now. And that's when we realized that, like, we actually have a really amazing film on our hands if she succeeds, especially. But if she doesn't succeed, then she's at least putting everything she has into this project. And when she ultimately did do it, like, she barely did it. I mean, it was touch and go. Like, it wasn't just like a slam dunk, like, we didn't know if it was going to happen right to the very last second. So it was very dramatic and it just made for good film. For example, we were just in Yosemite with Ethan, and like, we filmed him on this climb called Meltdown for like a month, basically. And he ultimately ended up not doing it for our film. So we kind of had to pivot like how we told the end story for our film. But it also wasn't really reliant on him sending it. It was more of a story about him and his dad's relationship and what Ethan goes through as a person and how he transformed as an individual, but also as a climber. So yeah, it's nice when people send. That's great, but and it is a predictable story. People want to root for someone to win, and when they don't, if there's not some sort of payoff, then you kind of feel like you're left empty-handed a little bit. Um, but it is nice to have a win. I
Yeah,
always,
yeah, yeah. But I mean, it's also good sometimes that it's not a win, I guess.
yeah.
How many projects do you have going on simultaneously?
In phases of development, I don't know, 5 to 10 at any given time. Just depends on where we're at with stuff. Like, we're talking to people all the time about new projects, and we're filming here and there with long-term projects all the time, and just kind of like banking that footage and assuming that eventually it will become something. Or we're working on like commercially driven projects, whether it's for a brand story, or a commercial, or if it's some sort of brand specific commercial work, like if it's making you know product videos, or really core commercial stuff. That's always happening in the background too. But the majority of the work that we do is feature documentary or brand films, basically.
Are you involved in everything?
Yeah, it was my
Yeah.
question exactly.
Sorry.
Yeah, definitely involved in everything. I mean, it's me and my wife, Jess. Jess is an amazing photographer. She's also, she has a PhD in photo, so she's quite knowledgeable. And she's an amazing lifestyle photographer too, so that's really cool. One thing that is hard is when you bring in more people. Like, Jess and I run the company, but we have a full-time editor. Basically, we have a full-time producer, and then we have a collection of subcontractors that will lean on to shoot video or help with writing or come in and do complicated edits or whatever it might be. But really, the core is me and Jess. And we have a
Do you,
studio too. We have like this is just our office that I'm in now, but like behind this wall behind me is like a full photo video studio. We have like a 20-foot psych wall, and we have like a full production studio there. So we're like, we're shooting portraits with people. We're doing photo shoots for brands. We're doing commercial video projects in there. We're doing interviews. And it's like we're a fully functioning production company, providing as much as we can for the outdoor industry, whether it's climbing or outdoor.
must be like hours and hours like video materials, because I remember when you have been filming Janja in Slovenia, you've been filming like pretty much like 24/7 there. I was like asking just how do you store the data and all, because I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard. Like, how do you adapt to like that lifestyle, or what?
No. How do you store all the footage, like that? Because there are hours and hours of, I don't know. It must be crazy.
It's a lot of footage. Yeah, I was just looking at. I mean, we keep like a really detailed um, spreadsheet with all of our footage on it, and I can tell you like the exact number of terabytes and stuff. I was just laughing because a friend of mine was asking me how much footage we store, and I think we're near a petabyte of footage. So we have like a lot of stuff. And keep in mind, like that's shooting since 2008, but it's also like archiving 100% of USA Climbing's material for a decade. So like every live broadcast, every camera angle of every broadcast, like
Shit.
all the time people are coming to me and they're like, hey, did you shoot like Kai Leitner in 2015 Bouldering Nationals finals? And we're like, yeah, we did. I'll go grab it for you. I'll send you all the camera angles. Like it's like kind of crazy the archive that we have. So like there's a lot in there.
Now that's impressive to keep track with all of that, because I mean, my photos, well, no order. Like I have no idea.
The Lightroom file is a disaster.
Totally.
Nice. I mean, yeah, you have to be organized. Otherwise, like it's too chaotic. I mean, it's not organized in the way that like you can search like a name and pull up all the videos. It's more like, okay, we know where that project is. Let's go open the project. Let's convert the like ancient Premiere file into a modern Premiere file and go and find the stuff and send it off or whatever. Like, I mean, we must be trading, footage every couple months with Sender these days. Like, they want stuff from us, we want stuff from them. We want, we're trading all the time. So it's nice to have like all that archived.
Yeah, cool. So, are you coming back to Europe to film Yanni again, or
Yeah,
so?
definitely.
I mean,
Yeah, I think so. No flights are booked, but definitely in the plans. We kind of just go with the flow with Yanya. I mean, it's also like her life is super interesting. I mean, like she is as dedicated and as hardcore as it gets when it comes to climbing and training and being serious about that effort. I mean, when you talk to Yanya, which you guys have, I mean, like she's not going to show up for a competition unless she's going to win. So, I mean, she's there to be the best. And like, that's such an amazing story in itself. I think she has a lot of mystery around like what she's doing day to day, what her life looks like outside of climbing. But that's a lot of Yanya is gym time, like climbing in the gym and resting. So yeah, like we kind of just go with the flow with Yanya. Like if she wants to go to Switzerland and try, the hardest boulders in the world, great, we'll be there. If she's going to be at home training with Roman in the like training cave, great. I'd like to be there for that too. I mean, that's where the magic happens.
Yeah, definitely. So, what kind of things do you lose sleep over?
Uh, I mean, making great films. I think about them all the time. Like just over the past year and a half has been like only doing and thinking about Emily Harrington. I'm ready to think about someone else more. uh, but I like to get lost in the edit and to get lost in the story and just like obsess over what the characters are thinking, what their motivations are, what will they be successful, how to present them in the right way, what story will be the strongest. I mean, it's so, I don't know, it's interesting just to get lost in that. But I'm super type A, so I spend a lot of time organizing and planning, and I like having a lot of projects all the time, and I like having complicated logistics. I like trying to figure out how to like rig for a big wall, but also tell a good story, but also like, manage the equipment and make sure the audio is good. You know what I mean? I like all the like production stuff,
Right, right.
and all that. That's really fun for me.
But to I mean, so you're telling stories, but to what extent are you sort of a director directing what's going to happen? Can you say this? Can you say that?
The dream is to capture the story in verite, like in real time with the person in the place. I mean, the less talking heads, the better. No one wants to see Emily Harrington's face talking at them in an interview. Like that's boring and predictable. If you can if you can do a really good job filmmaking and directing in the moment, then you're definitely in a better place. But like, yeah, sometimes you got to ask questions and get, work on people to get them to say the thing you want them to say. Because a lot of times it's hard to articulate like in the moment and say the thing that's actually happening. The people that are really great at that type of stuff are superstars on the screen. Like Alex Honnold is really good at saying what he's feeling on camera, and that's such a special gift that like you get as a director when someone says how they feel to you in a way that's articulate and that is meaningful in the moment. And so like that's kind of what you're chasing when you're directing in a scene or whatever. But like a lot of that happens off camera. Like, a lot of that's done in the studio when you're recording audio, or if you're getting pickup lines to connect ideas in a movie. Like that just has to be done sometimes. Everyone does that.
Of course.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's just part of the game. You're trying to weave the story into what's actually happening. I mean, you're not like, it's no bullshit. Like you're not faking anything. You just have to kind of force it out of people sometimes.
Yeah.
Did you experience something like really dangerous while filming?
Have I ever experienced something dangerous?
Yeah.
I mean, sure. Yeah. I think like with climbing, it's like in the mountains, there's like, there's avalanches, there's all kinds of stuff that can happen that's unpredictable. But with like shooting on a big wall or sport climbing, or you're on a rope hanging around shooting like you guys are used to doing, like it's either like totally fine or you're dead. I think that's like what people don't really understand is like there's no like there's no like middle ground. You don't have like an accident where like something went wrong on El Cap where you don't die. Like if your rope breaks or like your anchor, malfunctions or something goes wrong, you wrap off the end of your rope, you're dead. I mean, there's no like, if there's some scary stuff, like I've had some really scary things happen. Like in El Cap, I was shooting with, who was I shooting with? Lynn Hill and Nina Caprez on the nose, and I was jugging a rope like on a roof, the very last pitch of El Cap. And I was jugging sideways with one Zumr, and I was using a micro traction on my harness. So I was kind of like sliding across this rope, unclipping quick draws as I was going out this roof, which is like the last 512 pitch on the nose, which is like crazy exposed. It's like a big overhanging bulge, and it literally is just 3,000 feet of air below you, right down to the base of the nose. It's insane looking. And I was kind of like jogging out on my micro traction, and I like twisted the micro traction, or I twisted the Zumr in a weird way, and it came off the rope and it was attached to me. So like it was on a leash to my harness, but I was only on the micro. And so I fell upside down and I like flipped backwards, and I like felt like I was going to fall out of my harness, and I was just kind of dangling there, hanging out, 3,000 feet above the nose with the whole exposure. But it was very scary. And I was kind of like, oh my God, okay, that could have been the end of me, but it wasn't, like it's just weird in those environments. Like you're either alive or you're dead. There's no in between.
But would you say it's a bigger risk of that kind of thing happening because you're also focusing on, filming?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we did a project with Yosemite Climbing Association, and it was all about kind of like what leads to accidents in Yosemite. And all of those, many of the accidents that happen in Yosemite are a compounding of situations. So like the weather gets bad and it's getting dark and you're tired. That's when something goes wrong. So like you're shooting a climbing achievement, you're tired, it's getting dark, that's when something goes wrong. So like there's always like this compounding of things that create like I don't know, your mind, your capacity in that moment is just like it's different. You're not as focused and you make a mistake. I mean, you're trying to always be like on it and trying to be focused and organized, but like it's hard when you're thinking about so many things and you're trying to direct someone to maybe say something to camera that you want them to say, or you're filming something that's like crazy, like an accident, and you're kind of documenting something that's unfolding in real time, that can be distracting. So yeah,
The better angle.
yes, yeah,
Yeah, I guess it's really important to just have, you know, strict routines, doing the things same way every time, always, and to not, you know,
yeah,
fuck up.
yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, having a routine is really important, and also just like being a little bit extra careful. Like maybe you double back or you double check things, and you like kind of have like your safety, your wallet, watch, testicles, spectacles. You know, you do check uh every time you do something. So yeah, like I think that's like it's essential, but also like, you know, you're shooting like I've been like on bouldering shoots and like gotten closest to being injured
Yeah.
while
That's
out like
crazy.
standing on top of a slippery boulder in the rain or whatever. You know what I mean? There's like you can get hurt doing anything.
Yeah, you don't have to you don't have to you know, fall 1,000 meters to get injured. You can, you know,
Yeah.
2 meters could be plenty.
Yeah, good. A friend of mine fell in Squamish, like taking a photo, and he like got so injured. Like this is way back in the day. He was in the hospital for like 2 months, and he like busted his hips up. His like shoulder was destroyed. Like he fell like 15 feet into some boulders while shooting photos. Could happen to all of us.
Definitely.
Yeah. Did you guys get any good questions in your Instagram outreach? I got some actually.
So
Did you?
ask yourself.
You want me to AMA? Ask myself. I was asked, since this is the CIA podcast, I was asked to find out if you guys know anything about the drones in New Jersey.
We do, but we can't tell you
talk about
because
it.
Mm.
So,
Okay, we'll circle
but, you
back on
know,
that.
yeah.
Okay, great.
It was a good question. I have one here. Do you have a skin routine
Oh,
for your fingers?
yes, I do. Sorry, my dog is scratching in the background here. This is my dog Jerry.
Hey.
Yes, I have weird skin. I think also because I'm like a big guy. Jerry, chill, bro. Fair. Because I'm a big guy and I have very sweaty skin. So I think because of that, you know, when you crimp hard and you weigh more, you put more pressure on your fingers, you put more pressure on crimps, like you're putting more force on those on your skin. So I usually stop training and stop climbing because my skin hurts rather than muscle fatigue. So like I try to have as good a skincare routine as possible when it comes to like prepping for a trip or being outdoor climbing. So like I'll try to do anti-hydral, but like anti-hydral kind of doesn't work. Even if I do like, you know, a week of it leading up to a trip every day, I can put it on and it won't really change that much. I can build up a little bit of skin, but I have to kind of manage it differently. It's nothing. I don't really have a good answer for it. It's just kind of like a limiting factor, to be honest. Yeah,
Right.
it's hard being a big dude. Like
It is hard. It's even harder being a big dude with bad skin.
yes, I have notoriously dry or notoriously wet skin, and like I think that is a superpower of some of the best climbers in the world is to be, you know, is to have really dry skin. Yanya, for example, incredibly dry skin. Like she has like Velcro fingers. It's insane. In every scenario that I've seen her outdoor climbing, indoor climbing, anything, like never has any problem with skin. It's always like insane. And like I'm so jealous of that scenario because like you just don't like it's such a limiting factor when you have bad skin. It can be so detrimental to your performance. And I just don't think people realize when you have good skin, you have this amazing superpower.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
I mean, also you see people, you know, who climb all day and they have fingerprints.
Yeah.
Like really.
That's the dream. I would kill
Yeah.
for that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you have some like people they inspire you in both in climbing and in video making to have some role models? Or
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I look up to, in the climbing world, I look up to, bigger climbers that are high performance, that push themselves to their personal limits. I I mean, I'm really inspired by people that I get to see, pushing themselves to their limit. I That's what's like the most interesting to me as a climber. Like I love to see, like I'm super inspired by Yanya. Like I've spent a lot of time with her recently, and that just comes to mind. She's much younger than me, so like she hasn't always been an inspiration, but like watching her climb and the dedication that she has for climbing and what she's willing to sacrifice for climbing is super impressive. Like it's just such a rare thing, and that dedication is incredible. I mean, I also like I've spent a lot of time with Alex Honnold, and he's the same way. Like his commitment to climbing and being the best climber that he can be. He's definitely not the best climber in the world. He just has this rare skill, right? Like he has this rare ability to turn his mind off or change his way of thinking when he free solos, and it's just like an incredible thing to witness. Like I've shot him free soloing on El Cap, and it was just like the most mind bending thing ever. Like I can't imagine anything crazier and more inspiring than that. Like it's just so special.
But is it also scary to film it?
Yeah, when we
When
were
you
filming,
detach yourself, like
yeah, when we were filming on free solo, like he was soloing many days on El Cap. It wasn't just the free solo moment that was captured on film. Like I shot him soloing from like basically the top third or top quarter of the mountain, and we didn't even realize that he was going to be soloing that day. So it was kind of like caught us off guard, and we were like, "Oh shit, okay, he's not climbing with a rope. That's weird." But that kind of just like happened. I mean, I we were also hired. I was hired, and many of the other filmmakers on that production were hired because Alex didn't want to solo around strangers. Like he just wanted his friends to be around, and he wanted to be with people that he trusted. And I don't think he wanted to like take a 3,000-foot whipper in front of a stranger. I think he wanted it to be around friends. I don't know why, but that was just something that it sounded like he wanted, and the production team wanted that too. So I don't know. That was very bizarre. Um, but like, yeah, I've always been inspired by climbing filmmakers since the beginning. Like, I was super inspired by Josh Lowell early on with Big Up, and like, we all we lived and died by Rampage. I mean, that was like the film, and everyone talks about it because it created such a feeling, like that feeling of just like going on a climbing trip and, no matter what it takes, performing at your highest level, like dirtbag lifestyle, grungy, traveling, partying, doing whatever it is that makes you feel good as a climber. That was captured so nicely in Rampage. And like, that idea is something that I've tried to do as a filmmaker, is capture that real climbing interaction that you have with your friends, but also your experience. I was really inspired by Tim Kemple early on in the photo world too. Like Tim also, like followed his dreams and chased the best climbers as a photographer, making the coolest images that he could make, and that really translated. Really, it was super obvious. Like he was just in every magazine, he was in every ad. Like his photos became like the gold standard for what you would expect to see in a climbing photo, and he influenced all of us whether we realize it or not. So I don't know, I really looked up to those guys when it came to also like the hustle. Like I also look up to people like Keith Lazinski, who is like out there like every day, you know, good or bad, whether good or bad scenario, he's taking photos of the moon, of a bird, of, like a street, of life. Like he's an obsessed photographer. Like I just really like the obsession and the dedication that people put in, and it maybe validates like my own obsessions in some way. Um, just seeing like that it's okay that other people are putting everything that they have into what they like to do, take photos, make videos. go climbing. I like that obsessive nature, and I don't know, makes me feel better about my own obsessions, I guess.
So are you usually when you finish a project and you release it, say, are you usually happy with your work? Are you like content? This was no, okay.
No, I think I mean, it all sucks. I think. I don't know. It's so weird. You make a movie, you're like, okay, it's good enough for us to publish it, whatever. You put it out there, and then like, I don't know, maybe it's in a film festival, or maybe you're watching it like at a presentation from an athlete, or you're like seeing it, you go back and revisit it. All I see is mistakes. All I see is like the color's off, the VO sounds bad, that recording was terrible. I wish we had told this story better. Like it's a work in progress, everything. I would love to go back here and just like re-edit a bunch of stuff. That'd be kind of fun, do director's cuts or something. But yeah, like it's always like you could have done it better. You could have filmed it in a different way. You could have told that story stronger, whatever.
Yeah.
Always
Yeah, but
better.
I guess but I guess you need to finish your project as well. Like otherwise you just
Yeah.
yeah.
You have to have the baby and move on. Like,
Mm,
and then like you just learn from each experience. I mean, uh, you get better every time. And like maybe it's not super obvious how you're getting better with like the final product, but like maybe you're getting more efficient on the back end. Maybe your like workflow is stronger. Maybe like your storytelling is starting to get better. Maybe you're seeing something that you hadn't seen before and you can integrate it. You can just get more layers, get more complicated, get deeper in your storytelling. Um, but you're also like, you're kind of playing the game. Like you're in the YouTube social media world where like if that's the type of content that you're producing, which a lot of stuff we make goes to Instagram or YouTube, you're kind of playing that game. Like a lot of people want like blog content now, and like they want to have like a YouTube channel, and they're like athlete driven channels, and the content is getting longer form so that they can pre-roll, mid-roll, and post-roll ads, and they want to, develop a following, and the following is more important than the content being good. And it's just, it's a really interesting game, and you're kind of rolling with it. And then in the feature doc world, it's totally unpredictable. Like no one knows what's going to sell. TV is like dying. All of our production friends that are in like, like reality TV or episodic TV stuff, they're all out of work. Like it's a weird time right now, as like things move from television to this, streaming platform world, and trying to figure out what works and what doesn't work and what hooks people and what doesn't hook people. Is it episodic? Is it long form? Is it short form? Everybody's kind of chasing that, and trying to figure out what sells and what people are interested in. So that's a constant game that you're playing in the background while you're also trying to make the best possible story and film.
right. But do you feel more that you're more free now? Like you can do more of what you want and there is less what others tell you to do? Like no?
No, I
Well,
mean, you kind of weave the two, maybe. Like, if you have a financial backer for a film project, like, yes, you are making that film for them in some way because they're funding it, but you're also like, they're hiring you or you're collaborating with them because they want you to do what you do best or whatever, right? Like they want you to tell that story. Like if they give you $1 million, you got to tell the best story you can. Like if they give you $1,000, you still got to tell the best story you got to tell. Like ultimately, it's a reflection of the director and the person involved, as to how good it is and the success of it. So like if it doesn't perform well, like it might still be a great film. Like at least you did your best work. I mean, that's like, to me, it's not like the one film. Like, sure, one film could, kick you off on a crazy trajectory, but it's the body of work that I think is most important. And that's also true in climbing. It's not one
just
climb. It's like your life career as a climber and what you do with it, and it's the same in filmmaking.
so how do you define success?
Well, I mean, putting food on the table is nice. Making money from what you love is important. I mean, I make money from my sponsors in climbing, but also from, you know, my projects as a filmmaker and photographer through the company. But, you know, success to me is more about like your industry clout and the respect that you get from your peers. And, you know, ultimately it is, I think, your body of work. Like it's your climbing performance over your lifespan if you're a climber and you want that to be your legacy. It's your filmmaking career and photography that you do if, as a whole that speaks to your ability, but also your character. I mean, it's all it's all woven. It's all part of the same thing. Like that's why I really like, you know, trying to push myself as a climber all the time, because that puts me closer to the pro climbers that I am interacting with in film, and it validates me as a knowledgeable climber that can hang with Yanya and talk about calm climbing, and you know, go to Sayus and like climb on some routes with her or whatever. You know what I mean? Like whatever it might be, like it's all validating. It's all part of the same ecosystem. And you know, as a high performance climber and a filmmaker making films about climbers, it's all the same thing basically.
Right. Is it time for the serious questions, Vladek?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay, so you should start today probably.
Yeah, I mean, this was just warm up. How much
Oh,
do you bench?
We're recording now. Now we're starting.
Now we're recording. How much do you bench?
What's that?
How much do you bench?
Oh, I do not bench, but I did do that for one training cycle, and it was lifting weights is awesome when you don't lift weights because you get to see crazy progression.
Mm.
And so I think I was like at, I don't know, 145 or 150 at first, like maybe doing like 1 or 2 or 3 reps. And I was like, wow, this bench press is really hard. But by like, I don't know, third, fourth, fifth week of doing it, I was probably doing like 190 to 200 pretty consistently.
Yeah, 200 kilos. That's pretty good.
It's not bad.
Not kilos, pounds. We have American weights.
I know.
Okay, so how many one armers?
Oh, 0. I will never be able to do a one arm pull up. Impossible. My
I
arms
know.
are long.
Did you ever try?
Yeah. Every now and then I get on the bar and I'm kind of like, and then I get to like here and I can't do anything. But then if I start from here, I'm good. You know, I can kind of do the finish. It's the middle that's hard. I could probably do one of those like CrossFit like ones where you like your body, you know, that I could definitely do.
Right. And pistol squats.
Don't do them. I had a really bad back injury in 2018. I ruptured 2 discs in my lower back, my L4, L5, and it was super gnarly. And I had like almost complete paralysis in my left leg from sciatica. So like I was on crutches for 3 months. I couldn't walk at all. Like I couldn't do anything. My whole left leg was basically paralyzed, and I had like drop foot wherever your foot just hangs loose. That was super gnarly. And ever since then, I've tried all the stuff. I mean, I just have like lingering issues from this like, you know, disc injury. And it totally like consumes your whole life. It can be like a total mind fuck. Like it destroys your life. So like that has been like one of my biggest physical hurdles in my life by a long shot.
Shit.
Yeah.
Welcome in club.
Yeah. Oh, I never done one either. So
Yeah, it's if you've ever been there, if you've ever experienced that, it is like an unbelievable full body, full mind pain that is just like inescapable. It's a crazy thing.
wow. Well, that wasn't fun. Um,
But hey, I climbed the nest after I had this injury, so it's definitely possible. But I think I injured it on the Big Island, so I'm gonna have some beef with the Big Island now.
You're going back?
Not anytime soon. I mean, I'll go back to font for sure, but I kind of know like once you climb something hard and you trained for that climb, you know what it takes. And like in the back of your mind, once you know what something takes and you know the effort it takes and the mental pain and suffering you have to go through to get that, you're kind of like, oh man, do I want to start that process again on this thing? Like, I know what I got to do to put like the time in to do this thing. Like, do I really have it in me right now? Like, I'm 40 years old. Like, I'm not young anymore. Like, if
Yeah, but
I got to do it.
But now you
you
have two
can
kids.
do it so much more efficient now. So
Maybe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to live in Fontainebleau and just project Big Island. That would be a dream.
you could do other things as well. Like there's wine, there's cheese.
Yes, that would be nice. My wife also, she's lived in Paris for 10 years or in France for 10 years. So she's basically French. And so she's very eager to go back to France and live there. And we would like to take our kids there more. And so, yeah, there's a lot of pluses in the Fontainebleau category that could result in
Yeah.
us being there more.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Okay. I feel like, did I pass? Am I?
I'll have to turn off the recording first, and then we can talk. Done.